I'm sick of people telling me how I feel, what I think, and how I experience the world. Because I think, I'm more than capable of knowing and communicating how I feel, what I think, and I know that the way that I see the world is different to a lot of people's. I accept that the way they see the world is different, but for some reason, they can't accept that the way that I see the world is different. And people seem to have this idea of like the ultimate truth. And the ultimate truth is their truth, obviously. But I believe many truths exist. I believe that my truth is different to yours, but we're both still right. So we can experience the same situation, feel differently about it, think about it differently. I mean, the way that we feel and think is shaped by our upbringings, We're all different. And I honestly think some people are just born different. They're just wired differently. And difference in society tends to be frowned upon. Yet we forget that people like Einstein, Da Vinci, amazing artists and amazing brains of our society were different. I mean, you can't have change without difference. So I think people who think about the world in a different way should actually be celebrated, because we're the ones that are going to change the world, for better or for worse. Personally, I've decided to change the world for better. But I think, in sharing my story, I really just hope that people will never feel the way that I felt. They'll never feel the level of rejection that I felt from my own family, from every boyfriend I ever had, from people in society that just are incapable or unwilling to accept that I might feel things that might not be normal in certain situations. They try and convince me that I'm wrong, which is complete and utter bullshit, because I'm telling them I'm upset. Like, I know what my emotions are. So if I'm upset or I'm angry or I'm happy or I'm sad or whatever the fuck it is, if I'm telling you how I feel, who do you think you are to just sit there and tell me, no, you don't. No, you don't feel upset. No, you're not angry. No, you're not sad. Well, hello, I'm telling you that I am. I think I would know. Like, what makes you an expert on my emotions? What makes you an expert on what I think? And the last phone conversation I had with my dad, he was sitting there telling me, you think this, you think that, you think this. And I was like, no, I don't. I said, this is what I think. And then he just sat there like a 5-year-old immature child and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. And I was like, how frustrating is that? How frustrating is that? And it's happened to me my whole entire life. People have just invalidated my experiences and my emotions and what I think. And they call that now personality disorder, which I honestly don't believe. I went to a lecture the other day and they're changing the name of it now to complex trauma, because that's what it is. It stems from child abuse. It's a psychological abuse by invalidating someone's emotions. I mean, if you invalidate my emotions and you invalidate my experience, well, you're invalidating the way that I see the world. And it's not a huge jump for people start to think that they're being invalidated for who they are as a person, that they're being rejected because you can't simply accept that I know how I feel, that I know what I think. And by trying to argue with me and think that, you know more about me than I know about myself, you just end up rejecting who I am as a person. And that ends up leading to emotional abandonment. And you might not think this seems like a big deal, but I mean, if you've been told that you're wrong your whole entire life, that there's something wrong with you, that the only way you'll be accepted into the family is if you finally admit that you don't feel the way you do, that you don't think the way you do. So everyone around you punishes you, trying to make you suddenly see the light, that the way they see the world is right. And I'm not trying to tell them the way they see the world is wrong, because I can accept that everybody sees the world differently. But if you're basing my acceptance into the family or a relationship or just anything on us having to have the same views, and if we don't, you spend your entire life and my upbringing telling me that I'm wrong, well, it's not a huge jump to think that as an adult, I feel worthless because nobody's ever seen my worth. That I'll never be loved because you've convinced me my whole life that I'll never be lovable until I do as I'm told, until I stop being difficult. Because you think the reason oh my God, sorry, I'm shaking. You believe the reason I refuse to see the world the way that you do is just to be difficult, is just to be rebellious. Well, I'm open and I'm fucking honest. And I'm not going to pretend that I see the world your way when I don't. And I'm not asking for you to accept blame. I've said this to people in the past and they just don't fucking get it. When I say I'm upset, you hurt my feelings, I don't want them to accept blame. I just want them to say, I get that you're upset. It's like, oh wow, they understand that I'm upset. Awesome. That's all I wanted. But people refuse to do that. And when I've asked them why, they simply say, oh, well, we just don't want to like give you what you want. I didn't hurt you, so, therefore you're not upset. Or you don't feel hurt. Well, regardless of whether you intentionally did it or not, I'm trying to communicate with you that I'm upset and I'm hurt. And I guess what happens when you don't acknowledge my emotions and the way that I see the world, I'm just going to keep trying to prove it to you. So when you don't listen to me, when you don't listen to the things that I say, when you tell me you feel like this and I say, no, actually, I feel like this, and you keep arguing with me about it, I'm going to get louder and louder, and I'm going to get more persuasive until the point where I'm proving to you how hurt I am, and I do something intense, crazy, stupid. And like, you think at that point people would go, oh, okay, I get that you're hurt. You must be hurt if you're trying to prove to me so hard that, you're upset. But people then just turn around and go, oh, well, now I'm upset with you because you did whatever. And it just, like, how people can be so self-absorbed and only care about what happens to them and what affects them. It just absolutely blows my mind. Like, how hard is it? We accept that people are, like, different on the outside, black, white, whatever it is, tattoos, skin color, the way we dress. People can accept that. But, like, people can't accept that our brains are different, that our thoughts are different, that our minds work in different ways. It's like, come on, people. It's like I'm trying to convince you the world is round and you're arguing that it's still flat. Like, it does my head in. And I honestly think that's half the reason I feel the way that I do. I mean, granted, I have mental illnesses. I don't think you have to have a mental illness to feel this way. You just have to be different. And I think there's some parts of our mental illnesses that are created by society because we were different. Okay, I'm bipolar. I feel things more intensely than other people. But when people sit there and say to me, oh no, you can't be upset, you're bipolar. Oh no, you can't have emotions. Any emotion you have doesn't, really exist because you're bipolar. Well, fucking hang on a minute. That's not true. I'm bipolar, which means sometimes I might overreact. Sometimes all I can feel is depressive emotions. Sometimes all I can feel is amazing euphoric emotions. But I'm still a person. I still get hurt. That's not an excuse for you to sit there and abuse me. And I think regardless of whether you think what you're doing should upset me or not, if it does and you really cared about me, you would work with me on ways to avoid it. I mean, borderline personality disorder, people think, oh yeah, that's just you just can't handle your emotions. Well, no, that's not true. What it is it's a form of psychological child abuse. that has compounded every single time someone rejected me, to the point where I could not handle any more rejection. I mean, the last phone conversation with my father, I was going to kill myself after that conversation, because I just couldn't handle any more hurt. It was like my greatest fear had been realized in that moment. And if my best friend hadn't just happened to call me, I would have done it that night. And I mean, when I tell people how upset it makes me when I'm triggered by something like a fear of rejection or abandonment, when I get any sniff of that, all it does is it just reminds me of this little child hiding behind her door, this teenage girl slitting her wrists, just screaming out for someone to listen. Because you might be hearing me with your words, but you're not actually listening and acknowledging what I have to say. And that's why you find so many people with borderline personality disorder have the tattoos that I do, have the self-harm scars, are trying to express themselves because they're not being heard, or they don't feel like they're being heard. So all I ask is that you listen when I speak, because I'm not going to fucking shut up. You're not going to silence me, and you're not going to win. You are not going to make me feel like I am wrong, that I am worthless, because I do not see the world in the way that you do, and I don't value the same things that you do. So what you wish you could value about me, you can't. Therefore, you don't love me. But I've had to learn there's a lot of things that I value about myself and that people value about me that I had just completely brushed aside because all I wanted was your acceptance. Well, you know what? The only way I could deal with that was pushing away the people that refused to accept me. Because if I rejected them, and I didn't want to be accepted by these people, like, why would I want to be accepted by these people who bring me nothing but pain and heartache and, don't even care about me enough to do like a simple thing that I ask that would make the quality of my life so much better, and that we could communicate and keep some form of relationship. I think if you're going to reject me and you're never going to accept me, and that stabs me to my core to the point where I feel like you've ripped away parts of me until there's absolutely nothing of me left and I just couldn't take it anymore. I think if I don't want to be around people like you, then when you reject me, it doesn't hurt anymore, because I no longer want your acceptance. So to everyone out there that's fighting a similar issue to this, I just think you're incredibly brave and you're incredibly strong. And I believe you. I'll accept anyone for who they are, regardless of how different you are. I think being different is awesome. And I just don't want anyone else to have to feel the way that I feel. And I think if there's enough of us that speak up, maybe they'll start to see that our world is real. And I really hope that no one else has to feel as shitty and as alone and, made to feel fucked up, just because I'm different. I want you to know that you're not alone. And they are wrong. They're entitled to have their opinions, and that's fine. But just because we're different doesn't mean there's something wrong with us. In fact, maybe it means there's something so right with us. Because why would you want to be like those people? So narrow-minded and just incredibly naive. I just really don't want to. And I think this is the hardest thing that I've ever had to overcome, letting go of so many toxic people. I understand that it's, probably not my family's fault in the sense they just really didn't know what to do, but I was quite verbal about telling them what they were doing and that they were hurting me. And instead of just trying to convince me that they weren't hurting me, I just really wish that they had accepted that I was in pain and cared about me enough to maybe do something about it. If not, it's one way to make your child feel worthless. And I just want everyone else to know that just because they can't see your worth doesn't mean that you are worthless. And that there are people out there who will see you for all that you are worth. Much love.